My good friend Dan Kovalik, I've read all his books, I've heard him speak. He's an outstanding figure, a human dynamo. He's here, there, and everywhere, and he's just back from the Donbas. Dan, welcome back to the mother of all talk shows. I'm glad you arrived back safely. If you're in the United States, tell me, have there been any difficulties at the border with having been in the Donbas? Tell us that first off.
Yes, I have been increasingly stopped at customs over the last 2 years since going to the Donbas the first time. And recently I was held in customs for 4 hours. My phone was taken away from me, my computer, and my phone wasn't returned to me for a few days. It was mailed back to me. My computer was given back to me before the 4 hours were up. But I'm sure they both were copied. And, I'm just waiting to see what the next steps are.
I asked because I'll be in Kazan in a few hours, and I'm wondering what the impact of that will be. But I'll be in good company. All the leaders of the global South, and I'm including Crown Prince MBS, Mohammed bin Sultan from Saudi Arabia, the president of Venezuela, President Maduro. All kinds of people will be there. It is the future that is gathering together in Kazan. I'm sure you agree. Give us a word or two about the significance of the BRICS summit, if you will.
Yes, well, this does represent a challenge to the hegemony of the West, in particular the hegemony of the United States, and that's what makes it important. It is an opportunity for countries to get out of the thumb of the United States, to get away from dollar dominance, which, the U.S. uses to cripple so many economies. The U.S. has countries under sanctions that represent 30% of the world's population. And the only way those sanctions can be as effective as they are in undermining economies and starving out populations is because of this dominance of the U.S. dollar. And so the BRICS represent an opportunity to get away from that and to build an alternative economy so that these countries do not get squeezed. Venezuela, of course, is one of the big victims of those sanctions. Literally tens of thousands of people have died due to those sanctions. And as I understand, Venezuela will be admitted as a full member of the BRICS at this meeting in Kazan.
Now, how is the war? You were in the Donbas, which is almost entirely liberated now from the regime in Kiev. The front line is moving so fast, you'd have to be quite a cartographer to keep up with it. What's the feeling on the ground of the people?
Well, I think people are very positive. I was in Donetsk and Luhansk and Mariupol. And Mariupol in particular, George, it's gleaming with the reconstruction that's been done by the Russians. They've put $5 billion into that city, which, as you know, was largely destroyed by the war. But now as you drive through the streets, you'd be hard-pressed to see that it was destroyed by the war because of all the reconstruction and new construction of apartment buildings, hospitals, schools, and Donetsk as well. Life is largely normal there. People going to shops and going to work, going to restaurants. You use the word liberate by Russia, and that's not a word that we would hear the West apply to this, but I think it's true. I've been there 5 times, George, as you mentioned, and the people feel a great relief to be part of Russia again, and that should be noted again, because they've been historically part of Russia, right? Going back a long time, and they would have been okay being part of Ukraine as well, but the government in Kiev decided to make war against those people, and they decided they'd be better off as part of Russia, and I think that sentiment holds.
Now, Joe Biden just announced this day another $425 million of aid to Ukraine. That's another $500 million. just 3 weeks until the presidential election, if indeed it is still 3 weeks, might be less. Is this an election issue in the United States? I mean, I'd want it to be an election issue if it was my country. I'd say our country is falling about our ears, and you're handing over billions of dollars, the thief of Kiev, as if we had no need for those billions. What's the feeling on the ground in the U.S.?
Well, the polls show that a majority of the American people are in favor of ending this aid to Ukraine. And I think it's an important issue. Sadly, I don't think it's at the top of the list for Americans, though it should be. You know, we just had these devastating hurricanes in the south of the United States, which wiped out whole cities like Asheville, North Carolina, a lovely city, by the way. And the help to those people has been meager. The help getting to people to rescue them was slow and continues to be slow. And of course, a lot of people are complaining. Where is our help? Why do you have billions for Ukraine? Why do you have billions for Israel and you have so little for us? And I think that when people go to the polls, particularly from those areas, from the states of North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, they are going to be thinking about that when they pull that lever.
Well, of course, in other places, they're going to be thinking about the money you're sending to Israel and what Israel is doing with it. It's very hard to see Kamala Harris winning Michigan in the current circumstances, isn't it?
Correct, because Michigan has such a large Arab population, and she knows she's been risking this state, which is critical to her to get in order to win. But again, the Democrats and the Republicans as well are so wedded to Israel that they're willing to risk everything to continue supporting Israel. Just so you know, I live in Pennsylvania, the most important swing state in the Union. I voted by mail for Jill Stein because she's against the war in Gaza. I'm not going to vote for a genocidaire for president, and a lot of my friends feel that way. I think there will be a reckoning, George, and I think it has to come. I don't think that the Biden-Harris administration should be rewarded for what they've done to the people of Palestine and Lebanon.
And the one thing that you can say, it's the only thing about Donald Trump, is that of the two, he's the one most likely to end this apparently endless, bottomless pit that the United States has found for Zelensky. He's likely to ditch Zelensky, isn't he?
Well, he certainly is signaling that, and Zelensky appears to know that and to be painfully aware of it. And of course, during the one debate that he and Harris had, to his credit, he raised the specter of a possible World War III that he is against. And incredibly, Harris said nothing about that. The sad part is that people in power in Washington right now seem to want World War III. And that's an incredible thing to me. And not enough people care about it. And you're right. I mean, whatever you say about Donald Trump, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I did not vote for Donald Trump. But the fact that he doesn't want World War III and the fact that he wants to end the war in Ukraine is certainly a positive thing.
Down the ticket, senators, congressmen, is that big lump of wood the senator for Pennsylvania up for re-election? And if he is there any chance of getting him out?
If you mean Senator Fetterman, no. Sadly, he's got a few more years before he stands for election. As you know, I've been haunting his footsteps as much as I can, though his partner in crime, Bob Casey, is running. And I guess Casey's at least been smart. He votes all the time for the Israeli aid, but he doesn't go around bragging about it like Fetterman does. He doesn't go around waving the Israeli flag like Fetterman does. So I think he'll probably win pretty easily. Again, there was a Green Party alternative on the ballot to him, which I did vote for. But yes, unfortunately, Senator John Fetterman has a few years of respite.
Fetterman looks like he's walked off the set of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but perhaps we oughtn't to drill down too far on that. Professor Dan Kovalik, as always, a big thanks to you for being on the mother of all talk shows.